Hello and welcome. I'm Psychic Medium Roberto, and I truly hope you're doing well. All right, so I am dealing with a true crime event, so please be warned. I won't be too graphic or too detailed into the terrible stuff. Then we have a disclaimer, please. These are my opinions. Anything I say is alleged and needs to be tested and proved in a court of law. Having said that, Summer Wells. This is the third update. I'm recording the 21st of January. It is morning here in South Africa. And I would first like to say thank you for all the new subscribers. The channel's been going a little bit mad, and for good reason. We all want to know the outcome and what happened to young Summer Wells. So appreciate you participating with your messages. All right, I have been meditating for the past 2 weeks. I'm kind of been locked in spirit since December or mid-December. And I believe the first few videos I did on my channel since being away for about 6 months was just gearing me up again back into the flow of true crime. Because I've been shooting a feature film. I'm producing a local feature film. And we about 3 weeks away, 4 weeks away of completing principal photography. So now that I've set up the movie, I'm focusing back on my spirit side. And if anyone knows or worked in the industry, it's not exactly light work. And the hours are intense. But I'm happy to be back. And I feel I'm back up to speed where I was when I left off. And let's get into it. Let me not bore you with my backstories. All right, so the first reading I did was based on this chart here. And the key elements coming out of here, of course, I picked up quite a bit what was happening around Summer Wells at the time. Now, we discovered a drum. There's a missing drum, or there was a drum used. So this is a slide from the second update. There was a drum used, I believe, by the parents of Summer Wells, and I'm going to say parents, because I believe both were involved, however, at different stages of the event. And again, just for clarity or disclosure, rather transparency, I have not refreshed my mind about the case. I read a paragraph or two last night while looking for more photographs, but not the detail. Of course, when I did the very first episode about a year ago, I did some research, but of course I was aware of the case, but I haven't refreshed myself. And for everyone that's been leaving comments, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I love engaging with you. The purpose is to find the drum, all right? And as mentioned, just from a commercial point of view, if I could find the answer in the EP1, I would require a lot of time in meditation, but unfortunately I don't have that time at the moment, at least for the next month. All right, so here we go. This was slide 2. We've picked up, I believe, and I'm going to go to the new slide now for this episode. And I know some of you have been asking, so what I'm going to do in this episode. All right, so this is the third slide that I'm going to work on, and in the third update episode. A lot of you have been asking me, please go into leading up to and before the death of Summer. And I mentioned in update 2, I've had glimpses of it, and obviously it is not a good thing. And No, okay, so Summer's showing me again. I'm telling you, she's around me constantly. So if you see on the top there, Summer does not want to talk about what happened before, except for a question she asked. How are we as kids supposed to grow up like this? So as you can imagine, that's quite a difficult thing to comprehend, that a young child would ask, why would we have to grow up in these conditions? And you know, this is in the work that I'm doing on this video, you know, it's going to be the question we ask ourselves all the time. For example, and I don't mean to offend anyone by what I'm going to say, you know, a lot of us ask the question, how does God allow something bad to happen to, in this case, let's say Summer Wells, right? The universal question, we'll be asking that question. Every human being on this planet will ask that question. Because, one, it is a horrendous crime to take the life of a young, I believe she was 5 or 6 at the time, to take a young life. And then the human beings, or the people involved, in this case her parents, carry on living their lives, sucking up oxygen. I forget the name now, but one of you in the premiere show said oxygen thieves. So, and the answer to that is, and I've, you know, since doing these crime shows, the answer I'm currently settling on is human beings decide what they're going to do. It's all about choice. God, for example, and again, I don't mean to offend anyone, we can't say, did I mention this? So ultimately, I believe, I mean, choice, I mean, in the context of something like this, choice, I mean, we all have choices. And of course, we can argue, and I don't want to go too deep on this because it's not the purpose, but I feel it's a relevant situation. How can a bad thing happen to a girl? Why didn't God prevent it? And the answer is, a human being made a choice. A human being made a choice. And that's where I'm currently at in that question. So, you know, share your comments, because you know, we think about this. Why would something bad happen to a young, innocent child? And, you know, it's enraging. It's absolutely enraging. So that arrow, so the purpose, so in other words, the purpose of this video currently, and I'm not saying it might not happen in the next update, let's say, for example, but for the time being, we're going to focus on finding the drum. We all appreciate that something bad happened to someone. And in fact, I had an impression between the previous video and now, and that it was a constant thing. It was a constant occurrence in that household. Kids would get beaten. Now, the glimpse I had of a particular instance, and I'm not talking about the first one I did in the first video, but it's similar. And it just confirms for me that, you know, you could be walking around the house as a kid, right? And you might just bump a table, or you might just look at the human, the big adult human, in a wrong way, and you'd get a smack behind the head. Do you know what I mean? So it was that kind of environment where trust was certainly foregone many, many years ago. And, you know, growing up, I mean, we all grow up, right? So in terms of physically, I mean, but as a child, you don't really have a say. And I believe in leading up to the current situation, I believe there was that argument. And obviously let me just double check the number, but 15-6, yeah, there we go. And there's something interesting coming up about this 15-6, by the way. In that household, there was constant tension. Now, we can also appreciate, of course, this was reported in the news, but the year that this case took place was all 5. So what I'm getting to, we had a very unstable home environment for this kid. And the glimpse that I had yesterday was you can get a beating for any little stupid thing, any silly thing. If the adult human was in a bad mood, or, and in most cases, because this case, the year that the case took place in was a 5, drugs, drugs, drugs. So you've got intoxicated human beings who in their own right, and I don't mean to disrespect anyone without being proven in a court of law, but you got 2, I wouldn't say they come from the top shelf, adults who are minding children, right? Who have raised children, but in themselves have so many issues. Let me be polite. I wanted to be mean. Who in themselves have issues. And those issues haven't been resolved because the dependency on drugs, I mean, we can debate this, but part of that addiction, or it's the addiction because that's physical, but the need and the dependency on drugs is because of past unattended issues that manifest in various behaviors, right? So we have a household, first of all. So you can imagine that it is complete chaos in that place. And kids love authority, but proper authority, or let's say the good authority, in the sense of do's and don'ts, boundaries will not be crossed, raising the kid to respect adults, have good manners, but have schedules, have rules, regulations, and not let them run amok, run around like wild animals, and treat them as such. And I've just been reminded of the comments I made in the very first video that the father would throttle these kids, and I'm seeing it again, would throttle these kids, but like holding them up like little chickens. I mean, these are adults that have major issues, so we can appreciate, just to finish off this point once and for all, for now, I'm just saying for now, I'm not going into the lead up to Summer Wells's disappearance and passing. So let's focus on the drum. The 22-4-13-4 is where we find the drum. Okay. Now, as mentioned in the previous episode, and I have these 2 lovely comments from our viewer. I have these 2 lovely comments from Lizzie Wiz and Gina Ferguson. I hope you don't mind me just shining a little bit light on your comments, but thank you for your comments. I really appreciate them. So in the previous video, let's just focus on this 22-4. This is where we have the drum on the scene. Okay. Now you would, it's just come across me now, just empathically and just knowing and feeling. We asked the question, how did the drum get on the scene so quickly? Because the drum is already there at the moment of the death. Okay. So to answer everyone's questions, I believe there's obviously a very good chance. I mean, I would say the drum was on the property at the time, right? But what I want to get to is, in the main, I don't like looking at photographs if I'm doing an investigation. Now, the reason why I don't like looking at photographs, and what I'm getting to, is the drum on the property where someone is standing in front of the drum in the rain. We see a red drum. I've had a look. I've glimpsed it. I didn't focus or stay on it. Now, the reason I don't like looking at photographs, because we can appreciate that the instant a photograph is taken, and of course I work in the industry, but the instant a photograph is taken, it captures that moment. And I believe a lot of the times, this is why we must never stage your photographs. Rather take the photographs in the real or live or while in action, because if that is the case, then you're capturing the person's whole spirit, if you like. However, if you're standing and it's a portrait type setup, your whole focus and energy focuses in that moment. And that's why photographs, in a sense, for me, I feel can be deceiving in trying to interpret someone's spirit, energy, or get a sense of what is happening around them. That's why I do not, when I get a personal client or a private client, I do not want photographs. I never ask for photographs. And in this case, when I started these updates, all I did was take that initial date, the 15th of June, and that's all I've done. The photographs that I have here of Summer is purely for a edit and creative point of view, not for me to read on. I never read these pictures. I don't read pictures. So give me numbers works for me. So we all have our strengths and weaknesses. Now, both these comments are very interesting because Gina pointed out that the father was a sheetrock construction building house. Did I read that properly? Building houses, beg your pardon. May have put her and Beryl on one of these sites. So the first correct, well, not correct, I'm not the teacher. But, and then, oh, there's a point I wanted to make actually. I'm sorry, just a quick note. It's about process. John Edwards, obviously, I watched all his stuff when he came out onto the scene and so on. He always says not to be right. And it's right. I don't need to be right. My job is not to be right. Okay? My job is to be accurate. And that is what John Edwards says. You've got to be accurate. It doesn't matter if you're right. It doesn't matter if you're right, but you have to be accurate. Okay? And that is my approach. I'd rather be accurate. So, Gina, you spot on. Here's these 22.4, which is all about earth, construction, building, materials. So we would need to trace the path, and I believe I received an image or a vision, if you like, 2 or 3 days after the event, and this person, the father, was sitting in, let me just get that slide quickly, and I know I'm jumping around, but it all adds up, right? The vision, Summer's father driving in the pickup, he is in the passenger seat, the drum is on the back. I believe the father was a link in the chain of events. So let's deal with the picture quickly. Someone else was driving the truck. And the father, now some might say he would never let anyone drive his truck, but let's think about something here. I believe he was a link in the chain. So in other words, I don't believe he might have been on the scene, responsible for the actual physical death of Summer Wells. He was, but of course he was a nasty bastard. Okay, but I don't believe in this case on that day, this disappearance of Summer Wells, I don't believe he was directly on the scene at the time, based on this vision, because, and I'll tell you why, I can see him looking out the window, and I went into his energy at that time. See what I'm saying? The image is like a moving image, so I'm going into that energy of something in transit, but not focused on the camera, because now I must be prim and proper in front of the camera, right? Or fake a smile. Anyway, so, but he is guilty. Well, let me not say guilty. But however, I do believe he was complicit in the crime after the fact, in the, what's the technical term for it? You know, when you, there's charges against if you mess with the human body after it's passed, right? So, but I believe he was complicit, and I've just been given that from Spirit, complicit in the crime of the disappearance of Summer Wells. Okay? Now, in that energy when he's looking out the car, I believe he is saddened by the events of his daughter died, because I believe Summer Wells and her father had very similar numbers. And there's a connection there. Of course, him beating her and beating the other kids and him being a bad father doesn't necessarily mean that deep down that he loves Summer Wells. His actions is because he's seeing himself in his daughter. His daughter's reflecting him through her. And I've mentioned this in quite a few shows, and it's common that the kids have similar numbers to the parents. And what happens is when there is tension, it's because, in a lot of cases, they got similar numbers and they're reflecting off each other. So there needs to come to pass a forgiveness. I wouldn't say forgiveness, but it's a acceptance of oneself is the thing. And when you're dealing with issues unrelated, or when you're dealing with unresolved issues, they manifest into bad behavior. Even though deep down he loves Summer, but he can't tap into that emotion on the daily. He's not going to wake up and smile and say, "Oh, I'm getting out of bed. I must go see my daughter before I make coffee." Do you know what I mean? He gets up and he wakes up and he smells rotten because of all the gunk and shit that he had the night before. So in that image where they're transporting the barrel, and I believe they did transport it off the site, within 2 to 3, maximum 3 days after the event. But I can definitely say, in my opinion, that barrel was taken off site somewhere. And I believe because I believe that barrel has left energy on play, because very significant piece of evidence in the crime of the disposal of Summer Wells. So now, if he was working at a construction site, or that was his daily job, or had an office who managed different construction sites, a bigger type company, I believe that drum was taken to one. I would say, bigger pardon, Gina. I would say that's exactly what that's exactly probably. So to Gina's point, that barrel was definitely taken off the home site, rather, not the construction site. It was taken off the home site and was taken somewhere else. That the father, sorry, I haven't Googled their names. The father would have taken it somewhere that obviously he would have been familiar with. All right. So let me tap in and see, because in the past I've been, and I don't mean to be modest, but I've been very good at finding things. The slight block, and I'm working on it, is the emotional element that has left its mark on me. Of course, these cases aren't pleasant. So I'm just going to see if we can pick up anything of this drum. So I'm picking up like a conveyor belt. Oh, it's not a conveyor belt, sorry, I've zoomed out. It's like, those Caterpillar mechanical machines. On both sides, they have these Caterpillar type things. It's definitely a construction site. And I would say it's more of a heavy type construction site. So it could be a new build if they're building foundations. And in fact, I've just been reminded, the comment that I made in the very first episode, or the first update, is technically the drum would be out of place. That's been bothering me, because personally I don't like riddles. And it's not in my numerology profile that riddles are good for me. I've got 4s as well, which is very precise, accurate, or information research accurate. Not, and that's some of my issues with some of these religious books. Everything's a riddle. So what happens? It creates opinion, and therefore, in its very nature, it creates disunity and not unity. Anyway, that's a little nugget from nowhere. All right, so let's see. So this drum would be out of place. I had a glimpse of it, what it would mean. So I'm definitely picking up it's a heavier construction site. I don't believe it would be, well, let's just verify that. And it's actually, it tells me in the 22.4, it's a heavier construction site. Definitely a heavier construction site. So what I'm getting to, it wouldn't necessarily be a home fix or a renovation. I believe it's a heavier construction site, or alternatively, it could be a new build. So if you had to rebuild a house, would be different, because the 22.4 is about building, construction, whereas 4 on its own, like a clean 4, would just be the earth. But in this case, the 22.4 is the building of a site. So in the case of, if it's a repair, I wouldn't say it's a site where there's a repair. If there's a site with heavy construction that you have to start from scratch to build something, it's that kind of environment. While I'm trying to get an answer regarding where that drum is, viewers have been asking, why do we need to find it before May 2024? It's quite interesting that May, and it's taken time to develop, but I'm pretty confident on my days and months, and visually what I'm seeing, and I saw it as a visual, the 5 May, not 5 May, beg your pardon, May 2024. What I was going to say is May is a 5. So May 2024. And it's interesting because the crime happened on the 5 as well. Now, not pulling at strings, but the fact that the crime happened in a 5 year means, I promise you, we are going to get disclosure on this case. It might take 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 10 years even. And I'm not pushing it out for the sake of guiding my reading, but even 1 year it could come out. Because it's happened in a 5 year, and there were a lot of 5s around this case, this information is going to come out. But officially, not necessarily what I'm doing or what other mediums and psychics do, or even investigators. It will be tested and known in court. It will be officially revealed to the public. It won't be a private cop finds an answer, and as he's about to tell the world, he gets shot or whatever. No, this is full-on court documents. There would more than likely be eyewitnesses. However evidence they have, whatever evidence they have, it will be disclosed officially via a court. Okay, so which is good news for everyone. And the fact that the disposal of the body happened on a 7, there's a good chance that it will be exposed. And because it happened in a 7, when a crime is also created or happened, not created, when a crime happens on a 7, where there's a 7, justice will be served. Killing of the innocents, justice will be served. All right, so what I'm going to do, it's still quite early here in South Africa. or it's just morning now. So I feel like I have to stop here. There's something I need to do quickly. But I'm gonna do a couple of these throughout today, and then put it together for the video. And then because I'm sorry, I'm not speaking directly to the Australians to the right side of Africa, but from the Americas, this will come out when you pretty much wake up. So I'm obviously 9, depending where you are, 7 to, like, I believe 9 or 10 hours even ahead of you. So, which is my advantage. I can take time and I'll do another meditation. All right, so I'm going to do another meditation in a few minutes, in a few hours. Thank you. Hello and welcome. I'm Psychic Medium Roberto, and I truly hope you're doing well. In continuation of the reading, I would say this part of the audio is the third contribution to the update number 3. And there was a slight delay due to currently working on a feature film, so we had a bit of an issue on set, which has required my full attention. Let's say that. Well, I'm back. So, and that is now approximately at least 12 hours out of my regular schedule, let's say that, minimum. There's only 2 recordings that I've combined, which you would know by now, but the first part I was just doing on the charts, which I will share now. I respect and appreciate everyone's comments and questions around this case, and of course it's garnered up a bit of a viewership for me, but for the community that has always have supported Summer. Many of you are asking about why don't I speak about what happened before, and I asked the same question. I mean, I was aware, obviously, that Summer did not want to deal with that, or it wasn't important now. The important aspect was to find the drum. But Summer then said to me, she did not want to talk about what happened before, but she had a question. How are we, as kids, supposed to grow up like this? And I know I did mention this in the first one, but it's such a profound statement when you're dealing with kids that have to endure abuse because of adults behaving badly. So, as mentioned, I have a couple of comments that I'm just going to highlight, and I hope you don't mind, Lizzie Wiz and Gina Ferguson, because I don't believe the drum was taken away. Now, in Gina's case, the father works around construction, right? So we've got that 22/4 happening there, or some form of construction, right? My father was more of the handyman construction side, and for whatever reason, I didn't take to that. So, so there you've got it in the 22/4. And Lizzie Wiz says, good feeling about the drum, and I've just had confirmation again, and I'm just going with it. When I did the previous recording, I was hoping to do or complete the chart, because I did like a 2-hour meditation before, and I felt ready, but when I came to the chart, the universe has a lovely way of teasing us, and I just couldn't get to the charts. I mean, there's a lot of talking going on, but I wanted to complete the actual chart. So here I am, and I've just had confirmation again. I believe this drum may have still been on the property at the time that when the police came round or whatever. For you who have been on this case since it broke in the physical, let's say, and up to date. Everyone's been wanting to know what happened, and of course there were various theories, and I said this in the first one. Everyone's entitled to their theory, because there's different pockets of information that get shared with people, with psychics and clairvoyants. To ask a question, one of my viewers asked, well, if you can see that there's a drum that we need to find, why don't you just tell us where she is? So, if that was the case, all the problems in the world would be saved, or solved, rather, let's say, right? So it is a process, and we have to switch on, switch off. Even when we're off, we're slightly on. Yeah, wouldn't that be amazing? Okay, so, but what I'm seeing, what I am seeing, so okay, let me just conclude before I move on, and that is, or summarize here, and that is, in the past 24 hours, and it's technically still Sunday, my side, there's a very good likelihood that this drum is still on the property, huh? And I must say, in my personal life, in my personal psychic life, a friend phoned once, her daughter had lost her tablet. And there's been other instances like that, but I tend to find things like that. And what actually triggered me again was this picture here of this house. This picture has always bugged me. There's terrible energy around this house. And this is, I might have mentioned it, I mean, I don't know now because I'm busy editing, but I'm just going to say it anyway. These kids didn't live in a, let's say, they didn't live in a harmonious environment. Let's say, for argument's sake, we can appreciate every family has their ups and downs every day, bumps and scratches because of life happens in between while trying to get to school, get to work, the normal family routines, right? But in the household for children, obviously we want a conducive environment where they can grow up and enjoy their lives and grow and become fruitful human beings in the globe, let's just say. Whereas, the odd smack would happen because Johnny dropped the bottle, or Peggy dropped the vase, or whatever the story may be, and there's a situation, and then it's forgotten, it's carried on, life moves on, we learn a lesson. But I believe in this household, the daylight was more, or let's just say there was no daylight in that house. And commonplace was beatings, shoutings, snortings, druggings, malnutrition, abuse, and just common household filth. Okay. Now, of course, if I get a target of May 5, and I've said that twice now. Now, of course, if I get a target of May 2024, so I've been trying to figure out why the deadline. And of course, the crime, and it is a crime, the crime did happen in 2021. And being 2024, it's now going to be 3 years later. So we're approaching the 3rd anniversary. And now it's going to be the 3rd anniversary. So in June of this year, it will be 3 years since Summer's gone missing. And unfortunately, and this trigger warning that I gave up front, I'll just say again, we're going to go a little bit deeper, but again, it's not to appease our bloodlust or rot of what, to give us the stories of what happened to the kids. No, I'm sorry. I'm not a bubblegum channel. Just to say, I know in the main not everyone's like that, but I'm just saying I'm not a bubblegum channel, and I'm not providing the filth to appease the story. No. The story here is the drum, and I believe it may still be on that property or in very, very, very close proximity, which still tells me it's the drum is around. Now, as mentioned, I wanted to get into these numbers, and I'm going to see if I can do it now. But when I tried again, literally about 6 hours ago, and I did it, the previous recording was done about 6 hours ago. Nothing wanted to come through. Even though I've got the numbers in front of me, nothing was coming through. So I wanted to look at the next 2 to 3 days, because I'm sure I glimpsed something about what happened. But in fact, that is still true then. That's still, I like to test the information, and I need to get confirmation to make sure that is the accurate answer, not the right answer, accurate answer. And I must say there, I picked up a sense of Summer's father feeling down about the situation, because, on the 17th of June, we've got that 23-5, and there's people arguing and going on. There's people attacking each other, and it's predominantly male. It's predominantly male anger. Look at all those fives between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. All those fives. And there's that shouting and screaming, 28 arguments, 28 arguments, 19-10-1, all about murder. And I will say, if I didn't, I can't remember if I said it in the previous readings, but if I didn't, when I was trying to get a couple more pictures just to keep variety for your eyes, because I am a visual person, but these numbers talk to me. So I did, what's I going to say? I forgot what I was going to say. So with these numbers, so we definitely got arguments happening on the scene here, and it's all about the death of Summer Wells. But what also interests me, and some of you were saying that there was an older male, but younger, still a younger male, but obviously older than Summer on the scene, and that's that 15-6. So if I go back to the charts I showed in the second show, I've now got a ring around here saying 15-6. And that 15-6 always bothered me. Now, if we say, and I try to be as transparent and honest and open as possible, because a couple of you have also spoken about water. Just try bear with me here as I put this all together. There's a lot of moving parts. So the 15-6 for me is the young boy or older boy for Summer on the scene. But there was also mention of a pool of water, or I'd read it. It made me recall in the very first episode I did read about. I believe they would have gone to like a river or a gorge of swimming day before all of this happened, right? And there is evidence of that on the chart. So on the 14th of June, we have the 20. The 20 could also be a pool of water. Okay. We saw that 22, I believe, in the Nancy Ing episode that I did. the young lady that went to Guatemala at the yoga retreat, went canoeing with her friends and never really, and never came back. And on that same time, we saw the 22. But let's get back to the 15-6. That 15-6 is, so if I look from the perspective of the young male, all right? So, okay, so we're going to go clean version in a sense. And what I mean by that is we're going to take it from the perspective of a young boy. So the child is not going to have the same energy as the adults that I'm picking up all the time. And I must tell you, those adults are filthy here. Not in terms of physical appearance. Not in terms of appearance. But just the energy wash around them, the energy cloud around them. And the energy around these scenes is just terrible. And, there's that 21-3. Now, today is a 21 in the real 21, the 21st of January, 2024, right? And I've always personally, on a personal level, because I'm a 12, I'm born on the 12th day. I was born on the 12th day, which is a 12-3, right? Now, you'll see under that ring, there's the 12-3. Now, that is the positive aspect, 12-3. Now, when you get a 21-3, it's a negative number. So it's the reverse of the 12-3. Now, because we know there's a negative outcome, we've got to follow the path of the 21-3. So we go 15-6. And there's definitely abuse and control and something not right. Okay, Summer's now drawing her attention to me because, but what I'm saying is, when we go past and I'm just focusing once again on the actual day, the 16th, because I believe everything would have happened quickly. Okay. There wouldn't have been, and I'm talking in the physical, I'm not saying as psychic, but I'm seeing, what I am seeing psychically is within a day, things are resolved and done in terms of disposing, getting rid of some, and of course, the decisions leading up to that decision of doing what they did happened in a turnaround of a day, right? So what I'm getting at is that drum was already on the scene and pretty much stayed on the scene. Because there were people saying there's images of her, the father taking her behind the house and giving her off to some kidnapping ring or some some child trafficking people. And when I first picked up the case, I tried to look at that as well. But I'm not convinced that happened. This was a local home killing or home situation that happened at the home as a result of suffocation bringing about death to Summer Wells. But she remained on the property, and again, I'm still getting remains on the property, right? So it's quite disturbing, actually. And you guys, I've said up front, and this is no excuse, but it just feels. It feels this will be like the final episode, in that I believe this drum is in plain sight. This drum is in plain sight, and based on my first card, or second, it says technically the drum would be out of place. So this drum's still around these people, huh? And in fact, because finding objects, I can hear people around that drum, and I would say there would be at least minimum Now, I know metric systems are different in the States and here in South Africa. But let's say, I'll say in meters. I keep hearing activity around the drum at least 30 to 50 meters away from the drum. And the sound of the activities are family activities, family type sounds, talking, rhythms, beats, that kind of thing. And I believe, we must appreciate that there's bigger plays in play here from a spiritual point of view, from a universal point of view, because someone's got the big picture. And I'm just feeling like, in terms of this reading with Summer Wells, I mean, I don't normally do really updates because I feel there is purpose to what happens, and I know that sounds, and it goes back to that question: why does God allow someone to murder or kill a child? We all make choices. We all have a choice, and of course there are mitigating circumstances around some heavy choices. However, ultimately we still have a choice. And I believe the purpose of me doing this video, apart from highlighting her case and bringing up the fact that she may have been put in a drum, we got to look at the way kids are being raised, and also the way kids are being monitored. I mean, we had the instance with Harmony Montgomery as well, where it was known that there were issues. And yet the response time to get to these kids to provide a safe environment for them to grow in and expand their life, and there are many Summer Welleses out there. And it's just disheartening that after all of that the people responsible continue. And I believe the young gentleman that was involved, there were repercussions for him. Because if you look on, and this is what I picked up earlier this afternoon, was the 15/6 that's on the 18th of June. And also the 18th there, for me, talks about the murder. Because if you go back to the previous slide, and I'll try to put this all in one big slide, but technology and sizing, you'll notice on the day that everything started or assumed went missing was the 15/6. And the 15/6 was in place. So when we get to the 18th, it's all about the young man or the young boy, 15/6. And that 15/6 is not a good number. And then you got the outcome there, 11/2 and 22. So that could also hint at, we spoke about that 20 as a pool of water. They went out on a family outing, 22. But a few days later, there was a family situation again around this young boy. All the numbers are reflected there. And we have the presence of the 16/7, and we have the number 21/3. And I keep feeling that I'm not to continue with it. Do you know what I mean? So to have an outcome, I do believe that young boy, like I said, at the time I focused on the story, and I haven't reread any information, but through your comments I picked up that there was this young male on the scene, and I believe he would have had a significant role in what had happened to Summer, unfortunately, because on the 18th he's dead center, which is, it's all about him. So we get a lot of reflections going on here. And when we have it on the actual 15th of June. So let's just have a look here on this day, right? So we're going to look at now from the perspective of that young boy. 15-6, there's the boy. We've got a 21-3 situation. That is not good because, and I'm just putting it underlined here. There we go. You'll probably see it as underlined. Who is forcing her to do something, is forcing her. It's like he's kidnapped her. And you'll recall that 26-8 for me is a problem. It's always been a terrible number. Now, did he kill her? I hear you asking. There's a very good likelihood that, let's just say, there's a lot of possibilities, but let me just see. Of course, we know the outcome, but I just want to make sure before I give an answer on that one, because that's not a light question. But there's definitely something that goes wrong between them, and he's definitely involved. He's as a result of So let's just go the day before, because there could be a build-up of a story or emotions or conflicts that's possibly happening. And there's definitely also there's trouble going around this family, and I know it sounds obvious now, but there's definitely a lot of energy, bad energy going around this family, and particularly in the 5-year. That's why, you know, when I said about when we were looking at the outside of the house there, this wasn't a very nice household there. And you know, if children happen to grow up in a very, I mean, there's going to be bumps and scratches, but if they grow up in the main in a stable environment, their future prospects are better. But in this household, it was bipolarish, it was schizophrenic-ish, excuse my pronunciations. So it just feels like I've reached the end of the road on this. And I'm certainly not one to exploit a story. I mean, I've had a lot of requests to look at the Idaho 4 case again. And it's kind of pinging on me. So, and you know, when you take a break from a case, you get that fresh perspective. Of course, I do have regular customers like every 3 or 6 months. It should actually be 6 months, every 6 months, at minimum, because you don't want to keep repeating readings. Because ultimately, you know, let's talk about this, I like this topic, and that is when you go for a personal reading to anyone, doesn't matter who you read with, when you receive that reading, you're receiving information as it is now for your future or whatever your questions are. All right? And when you're given that information, you are then naturally so, have choices to make. Are you happy with that outcome? Are you happy with what's going to happen? Because ultimately, you have the choice to change that. Okay? So I've always viewed, and I used to see a lot of psychics, clairvoyants, gypsies, card readers, you name it, in the early days. And that is, when you get given that information, and of course, you want authentic information, of course, first of all, let's deal with that. But ultimately, having known that information, you have the chance to change your future. The minute you walk out the door, pre-COVID, we would say, when you walk out that door, you can change your future. And it's like that at any time. I believe the ultimate past does rest within you. And of course, the other side of the coin is, let's say the reading is a confirmation tool of your goals or plans being reached, which is amazing. So if you're not happy with something in a reading, it's not because you get given bad news for the sake of getting bad news, or the outcome is not how you anticipated. It's up to you to change it. And you have the power to change it. I'm just realigning there. So for what it's worth, now let's get into why I'm just hanging around a bit to see if any other information comes through. But let's talk about why the May 2024 deadline. And the most solid explanation I keep getting is there could be a possible shift in the top of that property. Do you know what I mean? There could be alterations made to that property that will affect where that drum is, or and so on. That is the most logical reason I could think. And I am hearing trucks. It's funny with this drum, I'm getting a lot of audio, but I'm not seeing much video. And I believe there is going to be a change on the landscape that would require, let's say, if you want to build a house or property on that part, you have to get rid of that old warehouse and that old garage or whatever. And I believe that is what's going to happen. And because it is in a 22.4 environment, the likelihood is quite high that there could be some kind of alteration to the configuration of the top of the property, whether it's the houses or more houses. That's what I'm picking up. So there may be a time limit to us finding that barrel. Now, I'm not saying run up to the property or any properties around there looking for a barrel. Please do not put yourself in harm's way. For those that are officially involved in this case, need to maybe have a look around those properties or property one more time with technology to read drums. What is in those drums? They can do it for land and water. Can they not look in those drums in that area? I know it's going to cost resource, but I'm still getting the pinging on the issue of biological remains after a period of time. And to Lizzie's point, what is in that drum? Because whatever's in that drum, I don't believe she's in there alone. There is something inside there. Now, would that accelerate degeneration? I mean, it's already been, well, it's 2.5 years now. Yeah, I agree in some point that it's like looking for a needle in a haystack, but I believe the haystack is right in front of us and the needle is sticking out the haystack, and it has been open, let's say, to people to see. But that drum, the minute she died, or that drum is on the scene immediately. So I was thinking of, because it's a 5-year, I'm trying to answer as many questions as now in the event that I don't do another video. So let's try to get through as many of the questions we have. And the other question was, how and when, and I did speak a little bit about this, the 5-year, I can confirm I have had a vision or a visual of this coming out. Now, in my very first video on this case, which is like at the beginning of my video catalog, I used a photograph of the mother and the father sitting on a talk show, right? And the image I keep getting, and it confirms perhaps the sensation that I was getting on that case. And I remember it was one of my first, a little bit nervous. But I kept on getting drawn to that woman, and I paid no respects to the parents in this case. Sorry for parents, and I respect parents. Raising kids is not easy, but that mother and that father, I keep getting a picture of the mother. And even in that reading, the first one, I kept on leaning towards her. She is going to come out and talk about it. I believe she's going to come out and talk about it. And unfortunately, well, I was going to say there's financial considerations attached to that. It's I believe it's going to be like a dumb criminal moment. Thinking she's going to have a book deal or money deal, and then she reveals all, but she actually implicates herself in a crime, right? So it's going to, I don't know if it will be exactly like it, but she's coming out and she's going to tell the story, I'm telling you now. So it's always interesting on recovery days. So for example, when we find a body or that's related to a crime, it also helps. And what I've noticed is if we have a discovery day, it reflects what actually happened on the day. So I'm just going back to the 15/6 and see. I'm just going to hang on a bit, guys, and try to get as much information out as possible on this read. I know you've been waiting for it, and I've also been wanting to get more information. So I'm just going to see if I pick up anything about how and when. You see those 8s there, the outcome 8s and the 17/8. And there's that 17/8. So I'm looking from a reflection point of view. That's 17/8. There, that tells me there's a crime, the 7, the death, and the 8. So there's communication. And we also in an 8 year, 2024 is an 8 year. And you know, you got those double 6s, double 5s. This was a mean little boy. I don't want to go too much there. Sorry, I do have the option to change course of information because there's some rabbit holes you do not want to go down, in particular with kids. But I'm definitely picking up communication around this case. There's definitely more than one person that knows about this. And you know, when the one talks, the house of cards start coming down. And the weight of guilt and burden on any parent's shoulders. Even if you have no compassion, there must be some little blip of human compassion, knowing that your own flesh and blood died under your watch. Okay, guys, I think that's going to be about it. So to go back to that drum, I believe it's in plain view, and I believe in the main it's been in plain view, and the location where it is going to be altered, and that is the reason why the drum is going to be gone. And I just want a note for Summer Wells. What a lovely human being. She's been around me so much in the last couple of weeks, or week or so, whatever it is, or the last month, yeah, if you want to count the whole pinging of the drum. But recently she's been like really in my space here. And what a lovely, 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 lovely soul. And I hope and anticipate that there will be justice for Summer. And we just remind ourselves that let's look after the kids, even your neighbor's kids. If you hear something, I know we shouldn't get involved in other people's business, but please, this location where I am, there's a lot of families here, and it's like a condo in the States. If I was in the States, we'd call it a condo, but it's like townhouses, right? And there's lots of kids here, and there's a pool, local pool, or a common pool. And under normal circumstances, you would complain because kids are splashing and making a noise in a pool, right? Particularly if let's say in my case, I want to take a nap and the kids are playing out in the sun in the day. And I resent the fact that that's not noise that we hear where kids are screaming, having fun, laughing, playing in the swimming pool. That's not noise. Those are the sounds you want to hear, kids having fun. It's the other sounds that we don't want to hear, then we know there's a problem, right? Just keep an ear out for those sounds, because kids need our help at times. All right, I thank you so much for all your comments on this case. Just last little anecdote, if you allow me, if you are still listening, thank you so much. I know I can blab on sometimes. When I started the channel, I was getting very low views. And of course, I still growing the channel, early days, but you keep plugging on. And when I did the Summer Wells case, it brought so much attention to my channel that it actually activated my channel, in the sense that the wheels started turning, if you like. There was movement. People started watching my videos. Or let's say there was consistent viewership on my channel. And it happened when I did the Summer Wells case. And this is who she is. She is a catalyst. She's a spark that, had she been an adult, would have been very, very good at what she was doing. She would be able to build and start things, get people activated and get them doing things. She had the energy to create. She was a creator, not a destructor. And, it's unfortunate that the potential of the young child was never, won't be fulfilled in the physical, but we remember her as a shining bright star. And I thank you for watching and taking the time to watch and listen. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate you. And if anything should happen, I'm getting it again. I am seeing Summer walking away. She has been taken care of in the spirit. Very much so, by the way. Well received in the spirit world. And I saw her walking off yesterday. And I believe that's why I wasn't getting connection very well when I tried to do the show about 6 hours ago. Wow. What an experience. I'm actually glad I ended up doing the 3 episodes again. I'm glad I did it. There are other cases now that are picking on me that I should go back and look at. And of course, given that we are the 21st of the 1st, so we're now officially out of the shadow of retrograde, right? And yeah. For all of you that have supported Summer Wells, thank you. You guys are blessed. May we continue to remind communities and the world about Summer Wells. I thank you. Stay safe and stay alert, and I'll see you in the next one.